Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue Podcast. On this episode, we have Mr. Ryan Douthit. Now, Ryan is the creator and the host of Driving Sports TV. Now, I've worked with Ryan for, I don't know, 1.5 billion years. And Ryan not only produces the podcast, but he films, he hosts, he does so much stuff, reviews. One of the nicest guys on the planet and one hell of a guy, either in front of or behind the camera. Joining us also is Rob and Audi from Hemmings, and Rob has also worked with Ryan in the past. Let's just say we're a bunch of friends getting together to do this great podcast.
That's right.
But before we do that, we're going to drink vodka.
Gin in the morning. That's kind of
gin in the morning could be dangerous. But before we do that, as always, we got to give a big shout out to Hemmings as usual, and the Hemmings auction, of which you could go on, check out your dream car, and if you want, buy it, because there are a lot of great cars on there. Also, the Hemmings classifieds, of which we have 25 to 30,000 cars on there at any given time. So with all of that being said, let's talk to Ryan, let's talk to Rob, and get stuff rolling. Ryan, buddy, how the hell are you doing?
Busy, so busy. And it's kind of a little bit nuts because of the COVID delays, all the car makers, and because of lack of, car shows, all the car makers have basically pushed all of their press events for their new launches to this time of year. Yeah. So normally you would go to like the LA Auto Show and you would see like 5 cars released. Instead, It's like, oh, we want to fly you here for the launch of this car, and then we're going to fly you here for the driving event of the car 2 weeks later. So basically, I remember my wife and kids. I'm not sure if they remember me quite so much lately, because it's been a lot of time on the road.
Yeah, dude, but you always spend time on the road.
That's true.
I mean, so people know. I mean, the life of anybody that works in production is a grueling one.
It is, yeah.
You're doing a minimum of a 15-hour day pretty much anytime you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you are on the road for not days but weeks, and occasionally months or so at a time, and it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Ever since I've known Ryan, that's just what he does. I'm sure his wife and kids absolutely love him. And I'm sure his time on the road, that might have helped that, because like absence makes the heart grow fonder. So when you come back, everybody looks at you and like, Dad, you're back. This is great.
And they are so fond of me when I get home.
Right? Yeah.
Because they never see me. But I am home but the important thing is that when I am in the area, like when I am local, I'm home for dinner. I drive my kids to school in the morning. I'm always home for holidays, for the major holidays.
Right.
I have missed a couple birthdays, but those are like birthday parties, which aren't the actual birthdays or whatnot. So we can schedule around those. But like major holidays, major family functions, I am there for that. And I think that's kind of the important differentiation, is some people just constantly travel and never give a break. But I make sure to pencil in the family for things that are important to the family.
Right. Well, that's obviously.
I wanted to ask about. Do you think this is the new normal though for the OEMs? Do you think it's going to kill the car shows?
I think that the OEMs are realizing that they are getting so much more media, especially from YouTubers, out of this stuff. And it's costing them a fraction
a lot less
of what the shows cost. And they don't have to deal with the unions. Sorry, but the unions can be a bit of a pain at these car shows. And I was actually overhearing a certain unnamed car maker talking about how this is probably their new normal, and they're one of the big
They killed
ones.
the New York Auto Show, right, because of COVID. I'm kind of wondering if these are going to come back, honestly.
If they do, they might come back. Like, what was it, Motabella, which was kind of more of like a fun fair. I didn't go to it, but it was the Detroit Auto Show turned into Motabella, which is an outdoor fun fest for people to like drive cars and stuff. Not my thing.
But you know what? I could kind of see that though, because the auto shows. I mean, a traditional auto show, right? If you go to the Javits Center in New York, you go to the LA Auto Show, everything is inside, and it's a little on the stodgy side, right?
Yeah.
So
Sterile.
anytime you do a showcase outside, and the problem, I mean, obviously the problem with outside is weather, but it is such a more it's a more enjoyable event. And especially in this time of COVID, which obviously we have the Delta variant. I'm sure we're going to have the Zeta, the Epsilon, and the whatever variant after that.
Absolutely.
Going to come up, try to kill us all.
We're going to need a longer alphabet.
Yeah. But the nice part is, like, those events actually, I think anything outdoors is obviously more fun as long as you can do it in the weather. But to Rob's point, man, the OEMs spend millions and millions of dollars on these shows, and that money can be spent somewhere else that would be just benefit them so much better. So I agree with both, man.
Yeah, and from a creator perspective, we have so much more control over the shoot when we're not, bustling around on a stage show, on a show stage. We can take the car, go do our own thing with it for a little bit. So I've done a few world premiere videos that essentially replaced auto shows, and we're looking at 500,000 views on just my video, and five other guys were at the same event, and they did it with their own individual takes, and they all got lots of views as well too. So, and that's not just us. I mean, New York Times, Forbes, all of the big publications do these things as well. So you end up with a really good spread of content from an OEM perspective.
And it doesn't all look the same. It sounds better. The lighting is better. Like those shows are such a challenge from a content perspective.
Yeah, in general, I didn't do shows anyway for that very reason. I always felt that the content that I got out of it was only had a lifespan of maybe a week, because it was while it was news, it was good, but after it wasn't news anymore, nobody wants to watch it.
Looked like garbage.
Right. And so now I have the opportunity to tell the story about Subaru, when they launched their WRX, they actually rented Thermal Raceway down in Palm Springs, and we went for rides. And granted, it was a pre-production car, hand built with tape and tacks, but
I can't do that.
So
let's take you for a ride in a car that's not ready yet. And you know what? You can't even drive it.
I know, right? But it gives me something to do. I can talk about it. We can talk about the features, and it's much more than just pointing a camera at a static stage, which I think is that's I can't watch that stuff, let alone produce that stuff.
Yeah. When are they ever going to style a new car, though? Because they all look the same.
They just did, dude. Subaru just came out with the new WRX.
And it looks exactly the same as the old one.
I'm going to reserve my comments. That's all I'm going to say.
But you know what will happen? In 5 years, there will be the body cladding mafia for life, club of the people who will say that this 2022 model is the best looking WRX ever.
They will.
Because there's clubs for Bug Eye, for Hawkeye, for all the different faces on that vehicle, and some of them are good, some of them are not so good, but they all get a devoted following over enough time. I'm sure, like Musto in the classic car world from the 60s and 70s, some of those things were hideous, yet they have a massive following now.
Yeah, the only Subaru WRX I like is not even a WRX, but it's the 2.5 RS.
That's from that way to me. Back.
That's from 98, and that is the purest. That was after Colin McRae's rally car. That's the one.
Well, the 22B. That's the one that you want. That's the wide body Impreza.
Right. That's
they go for $250,000 now if you want to import one.
I like the last time they did a hatch. I mean, that one was decent looking.
Yeah. But the 2008 WRX hatch was a real big problem because it was like a detuned, it was soft, it wasn't very good. And the whole point of that one, so Subaru came out with this WRX hatch. That was a hatch, which people wanted. It was a WRX, which people wanted. But it was this super soft version. And of course, I know people will be watching this going, that's my favorite WRX, because
of course, always either way you're screwed. Either way, they're going to be like.
But the point being is that it's the car that Japan wanted, because at the time Japan wasn't into performance. In fact, even now they kind of are more about mass quantities and technology and that stuff. They're not into high performance like they used to, even though we have this whole JDM love fest going on over here. And so it was a car that Japan wanted, and it didn't sell very well. And so then Subaru USA was able to go, look, the car you wanted didn't sell very well. This is the car we want. And the next year we got the sedan with a wide body with, 270 odd horsepower. Yeah. It was the proper WRX because they had to have one fail for the other one to succeed. And so at that point, WRX was split off as its own chassis and moved forward. Yeah. And so this is the first time that chassis has now been moved to the new global platform. So it's one of those things where you look at by the numbers, the new WRX looks very much like the old one. But I think ultimately it's going to be a much better car simply because it's on a new, more modern chassis. It's not on a 15-year-old chassis anymore.
Yeah.
And chassis technology, like welding tech. We were just over, to segue, we were just over at the Tundra plant yesterday, where they're building the brand new 2022 Tundras. And the technology they use to add small spots of high tension steel to the box frame in very specific locations is insane. The lasers they use on these things and the manufacturing technology that goes into
lasers?
They use lasers.
Everybody's got lasers, right?
Unfortunately, it's not like, the Dr. Doom lasers where like, they're shooting the piece of metal from across the room. That I would love that, but no. Unfortunately, it's just a.
Yeah.
But
are there any people in the factory? Is it just computers?
There was like 10 people in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's robots. It's all robots. The robots do get coffee breaks though, so they're in the corner going.
Oh, cool.
So Ryan, let me ask you a question because, so for those out there, Ryan also hosts Driving Sports TV, and Driving Sports is Ryan does all new cars review, and he kind of found this genre where it's all off-road segment, CUVs, SUVs,
and it was a
trucks.
long build. It was a long path. And he's been doing this for a while. However, what I think is one of the coolest things is Ryan's one of the first guys that literally just built his own test track. And which I think is such an outstanding thing. So first off, congratulations on that. Thank you. I can't believe I got my wife to agree to it.
I can't believe you did.
I can't believe. Yeah, we're still
It's like I'm going to build a big sandbox in the backyard to play with my Tonka trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you okay with that, sweetheart? Yeah. Okay, cool.
By the way, there's snakes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So here's a shot of what the place looks like.
Yeah. And so Ryan, is that like 5 or 6 acres out there?
That is 5 acres. I have an option to buy the neighbor also, which would expand it to 10. But I want to see what this does first, basically. And if it sells, fine. But if not, because 5 acres is pretty good. Yeah. If we were talking like high-speed rally courses and stuff, 5 acres isn't anything. But when you're talking like the whole idea of the show isn't like you don't need to abuse a vehicle, and to test a feature, you don't need that much space. You only need to be able to take it over a certain, real complicated, very specifically designed section, so you can see how that power is transferring around the system. And for me, so when Driving Sports first started, the name Driving Sports was because we focused actually on motorsports. We covered the US Rally Series. That was one of the very first things that we did as a component to one of the print magazines that I did back in the era, like in early 2000s. Yeah. And so that was before even YouTube was a thing. We were on Google Video and DVDs.
And Street Fire?
What?
Streetfire.net?
I was on Street Fire too. Yeah, Street Fire. That's an oldie but goodie right there.
Welcome to the 70s.
Okay. If websites were designed in the 70s. But so we started out doing the motorsport thing. But the problem with motorsports is the same problem with auto shows, is that beyond the initial interest, it just fell off a cliff. The views didn't maintain. And any, the way that you actually make money on videos is to have something that's a little bit more evergreen. Now, granted, new car reviews is not in itself evergreen, because eventually nobody will care about a car from 4 years ago. But what I've actually been finding a lot is I have videos on YouTube that I shot like 3-4 years ago that actually increase in popularity based on new model releases, because people are then shopping for the old cars. So basically, what
like lease return vehicles and stuff?
Like lease return, CPOs, that kind of stuff, which is certified pre-owned for people who don't know. But so we started with, I was always doing car reviews. I've been doing car reviews since the late 90s. I did them for a local paper that I published. I was a tech publisher, and it was kind of like a tech component was the technology in cars. And so that's what I covered initially. But then, so I've always been doing car reviews kind of as a thing. It wasn't the main thing though, until probably, I don't even know. We started the show, we had 2 hosts, and we started doing car reviews. That was probably around 2007, 2008 on YouTube. We were signed production partners already with YouTube, and we were doing like shootouts between cars. We shot up at Dirtfish Rally School. We did comparisons and all this stuff, high speed, slidey stuff. Everybody wanted to be Top Gear at that time. I mean, of course, if you say you were on doing video and you didn't want to be like Top Gear, you were lying, because that's what everybody wanted. Of course. And that was before all the 50 versions of, Top Gear USA and all these other versions came out. So we were doing the car review thing, and that was cool. But the problem with the Northwest, I really wanted to focus on sports cars, but I live in the Seattle area, and car manufacturers don't really see the Northwest as a sports car mecca, which is kind of ironic because of all of the Microsoft millionaires. They all buy Ferraris, Porsches. I see so many, but the thing is, the sports cars right here are nuts.
When you think about sports cars, like when you talk about like LA or the Bay Area or stuff like that. When when you're talking specifically West Coast.
Yeah.
Right. Because LA, they all want they want to shoot up in Malibu and they want to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And or
all the production
Mulholland.
companies are in LA. So clearly they're going to keep them all in LA. Yeah.
That's right. So, but when you think of the North, like when I think of the Pacific Northwest, I mean, first thing that comes to mind is Sasquatch. Wagon. And the second thing that comes to mind is like off-road. It really does, because it's just like it's damp, snow, mud, trees, right?
And you're talking about just yesterday. I mean, that's all.
And that's just it. So it's like, yes, you can have a sports car, but the fact of the matter is you probably need something with all-wheel drive as well. So I think that your graduation from sports cars into kind of the SUV, CUV market, pickup truck market is a great one.
It was really just looking at what we needed for the channel to actually be successful, and based on the actual assets that we had available, which they always sent trucks up, they always sent SUVs. And luckily SUVs have actually gotten way better. When we first started doing this, when they added an all-wheel drive system,
it was garbage.
They were garbage. They were awful. And so that's actually where I started wondering, like, well, how good is this all-wheel drive system? And it just kind of was a natural progression of my own curiosity as to, well, what situations does this system? I don't want the cars to fail. I want them to succeed. But in some cases, they just don't succeed. And,
now you have something that's truly repeatable, right? Like you have a set little course, and you can
up until this point,
the same one.
Up until this point, I was using just mountain roads, which was great, but we don't have control over them. Other people would show up. Forest rangers were usually really cool when we saw them. But, you're always a little bit nervous. You're like, we are doing this legally because you're allowed documentary style production in the state forests, not national forests. Anybody filming, that's important designation. But also they've tagged a lot of the locations that we've been filming in for logging. So those locations are going to go away in the next year or so. So I needed basically a backup plan. And the fact that this backup plan is on the other side of the mountains, where if it's pouring rain here today, I can drive out there and it's sunny. Also, it'll have snow from probably November through May. And snow that's the thing people want to know about all-wheel drive. Because even if they never go to the mountains, they want to know, can I deal with this in the snow? And the issue with filming in the snow is public streets. You can't really do it on public streets because you need to get slip in the car, and police will be like, pull over, you're being insane. And you're like, no, I'm doing a controlled slide, but whatever. So this gives me the opportunity to do that on location. My neighbor owns a construction company out there, and he's going to plow the main line for me. So we can at least get into the location once the snow dumps. So there we go.
So now that we talk about the off-road facility, let's talk about a new truck that you bought, which I know you haven't gotten yet, but I'm waiting.
As of this recording, it's on a truck being delivered.
Is it a truck? Is it actually a truck?
That's a great question. So Ryan just went out and he bought like the super max loaded,
the most expensive Maverick you can buy.
Now, for those listening out in the Hemmings world, this isn't the little shitty Maverick from the 1970s.
Hey, be careful. Some people like that.
Some people like that. Again, it's the whole Subaru face thing. There's a fan club for everything.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm not a fan. I'll say it. I'm not a fan of the original Maverick.
I think my third grade teacher had one.
You cannot be a fan of something and not insult somebody. I'm sorry. Like if I say I don't particularly care for this, everybody out there can turn around and be like, Musto, you're a jackass. To which I'll be like, I'm cool with that. That's fine. Go enjoy your Maverick. I mean, listen, I've got stupid cars that I enjoy and whatever. You could be like, I hate those cars. Be like, all right, well, good for you.
Anyway, not everybody's a fan of stubby vans, but
no. But like what we're talking about is the brand new Ford Maverick pickup truck. And to Rob's point,
pickup truck.
Is it Ryan, tell everybody what it is, and then more importantly, is it a truck, and why did you buy one?
So the amazing thing about the Maverick is that it looks like a truck. It's just kind of a 6/8 scale version of the F-150, kind of from a looks perspective, but underneath it is very different. It's actually sharing a chassis with the Bronco Sport and the Escape. So it's a little crossover that has a pickup bed, but they've extended the wheelbase to like 120 inches, 121, somewhere around there. Okay. Anyway, it's a longish wheelbase for a vehicle of that size. But
is the width the same?
It's a little wider too. They made the track a little wider.
It's front-wheel drive too.
But see, that's the thing. So when Ford killed cars a couple years ago, remember the announcement we're not making cars anymore. They knew they were going to come out with a unibody truck with that's a Crew Max, so it has 4 doors.
Yeah.
And it comes standard with a hybrid powertrain that gets up to like 40 to 50 miles to the gallon on some people's testing. Front wheel drive starts at under $20,000.
I think it's pure genius. I mean, I honestly think it's freaking amazing.
Why wouldn't you, like, if you need to buy a vehicle for 20 grand, why wouldn't you get a 4-door front wheel drive vehicle with a truck bed? I mean, talk about useful. And then they've gone further, is that they're releasing the plans. They have all these little latch attachments throughout the vehicle. They're releasing plans so you can do your own 3D printing for attachments on the inside of the car. And then in the truck bed, they have all these slots so you can use 2x4s to just segment the bed out. And you can put flat plywood in, like, I think it was like 17 sheets or something. Maybe it wasn't 17, but it was a bunch of sheets. And then the tailgate will hold up, and you can actually run flat between the tailgate and the wheel wells with these sheets of plywood. I mean, it's like they thought of everything with this truck.
So in regards to being able to use it as a truck, right? Because it's still a compact vehicle.
It's still a compact
truck.
Yeah.
But how big is the bed area?
It's a 4.5 foot bed, which is kind of normal.
4.5 foot bag.
Yeah, it's not very big, but that's why with the plywood sheets, you can have the tailgate up and then you tie the back, so you can actually run like 6 foot lengths of plywood in the back if you tie it up properly.
Gotcha.
It's not designed. If you are in construction, this is not the vehicle for you.
Right. Buy
if
a
you
regular
need to move
F-150.
36 bags of mulch, but not 37 bags of mulch, this is the car for you because it can do that. It has a bed capacity of 1,500 pounds, I believe, which that's better than a Toyota Tacoma. And it'll tow up to 4,000 pounds. And mine actually comes with a brake controller for a trailer because it has the tow package.
That's not bad, right? When you're talking 4,000 pounds and you break that down, you're not towing a full-size car on a trailer.
No,
right? You're not doing
you'd
that.
be a fool to do that. Yeah, I mean, even if you pencil it like it's a Miata on an open trailer, technically that would be the right weight, but I still wouldn't do that.
Yeah. But you're talking like a motorcycle trailer, a pop-up tent trailer, jet skis,
a small
boat.
a small pop-up. Yeah, that would be totally fine. And so I mean, they're gonna sell a ton of these.
They're gonna kill it.
I mean, this is what once they catch up with production. Now, I have heard that the hybrids are that whole production line like is way behind. So we're not going to see like many of those at all until early next year. Right now, the one I bought was the one with the EcoBoost. It's a 2-liter turbo, which is the one I would have bought anyway, with the all-wheel drive. And you cannot get hybrid all-wheel drive. They say they're evaluating that. And they might do it later. Yeah. But right now, if you want all-wheel drive, you get the turbo 2-liter, which I should know the horsepower. I think it's like 250 or something like that.
I mean,
it's perky. Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
And the crazy thing is, like, you take a Maverick, like the one I bought fully loaded. I think it was 35,000 and change. You're now just barely knocking on the door of an entry level Honda Ridgeline.
Yep.
See, that my hope, because this was the whole thing when they first announced the Maverick, it was going to be the affordable pickup, right?
Yep.
And if they can keep the Maverick in the same vein as what Toyota did with the Camry, meaning you can get a maxed out Camry for like 37 grand.
Yeah.
And it's a great car, wonderful car with all the, amenities. If Ford does this with the Maverick, they will, and not my fear is that the price is incrementally going to go up. And then every dealer that has one is going to be like, yeah, we've got this, maxed out $35,000 Maverick with a $15,000 premium.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that once we get through the first shipments, I'm thinking maybe the second shipments might do that because we're supposed to have this chip shortage through early next year. But also I'm kind of curious about, let me throw over to the Tundra that I just drove because this is relevant. So I also just drove the new 2022 Tundra with a hybrid powertrain. And I drove the Lexus NX. Both are, of course, Toyota is the parent company on both of those. They both have the brand new 14-inch navigation system, which is based on Linux, that they home built in Texas.
Okay.
It's all
only
voice
you
command.
would mention something like that.
Well, like I said, I'm from the tech world originally. So, but this is the interesting thing. So in the Lexus NX version of that new infotainment system, you can say, hey, Lexus, set my temperature to 70 degrees, and it'll do it. And I tried it in the new Tundra, and it didn't. It says this feature is not supported. I'm like, well, that's weird. It's the same software. Why wouldn't it support it? So I talked to Toyota, and they said, yeah, it's because of a lack of chips They can't integrate that feature in the Tundra. Probably because of the volume is going to be much higher, or just because they want to keep those chips that they do have access to the Lexus ones, which I presume have higher markup. I don't know. But they're lacking a chip, so they can't implement that one feature in that truck. And they've worked around it by just not including it as a feature. And I think that that's possibly what they've done with the Maverick as well too. They'll still have some, supply issues. That's just going to happen. But I don't, it's possible they've engineered around the Maverick that it's not going to be required to have some of these chips that are hard to get.
What's the story with this new Tundra? Is it brand new? Is it all new?
It is all new. For the first time in like 15 years.
Yeah, because they've been getting crushed by Ford and Chevy. I mean, they own it with the Tacoma, but like their full size is never.
It's never caught on.
Yeah, they got shot with this one.
I really like the new Tundra. I drove the TRD Pro. So press events are funny because they have all these different trims and all these different trims and packages, and you can drive this one and that one, and they try to shuffle you in and out of all of these. I usually try to focus on one, and then I just kind of talk about some of the others.
Sure.
They had one TRD Pro at this event. One. And luckily, I had the most time in it. But
was it beige?
It was white with a red interior.
Ooh.
Okay, that's
it's very TRD Pro. It's a little. The looks are subjective. And the nose. Everybody's commented on the nose. It's like this big.
Well,
it's such a
bigger
big
is better, right? Everything.
Yeah,
is just,
basically.
How much face can I put in your face?
But it comes standard with a hybrid powertrain. That's how you get the TRD Pro. It doesn't come any other way now. And the cool thing with that is actually when you're off-roading, it's way quieter than the old one. And even their crawl control and MTS, which is kind of like the big, that is part of their off-road parts bin that is the most useful, because like I have a 4Runner, I have a 2021 4Runner. That crawl control and MTS can get through anything. It's like a miracle how well it works, but it's super loud and it feels like the whole transmission is going to drop out of my 4Runner because it's not going, but it works.
Wow.
So in this new Tundra, when I was filming it, I'm driving it, I turn it on, and we're about to crawl over some logs. The course wasn't too hard, but it should have been something where I could at least hear something.
Nothing.
Couldn't hear anything. And I'm like, so, from a perspective of somebody who's reviewed a lot of Toyotas, what you're listening for. You're like, oh, okay, now I hear it's doing that work back there and it's doing the work over here. And you can really feel that brake vectoring. And it's just like nothing. And I'm just like,
interesting.
But it got over it. I'm like, I think we'll have to voice over this part because I don't know what just happened.
Right.
But we have exterior cameras showing what it's doing. So it is still doing it. But instead of like the old system that was all based on just grabbing brakes brutally, this one also adds power to the system, which is a new thing for MTS and crawl control, which also is part of the reason why because it's based on the new Land Cruiser technology as well.
Right.
So that this is also in the new Land Cruiser as well. And then should trickle down to Sequoia and 4Runner because they're all going to be based on this new platform.
Ryan, let me ask you this. With the new technologies that are in the truck, right? When you're talking about the new all-wheel drive system, and as somebody who does, a lot more off-roading than most. And for those that don't know, like Ryan will absolutely go out of his way to take his vehicles off-road. Sequoia minivan. Yeah.
4-wheel drive. Like if it says 4-wheel drive on the side. Now, right now, I have a vehicle downstairs. I have the GV70 from Genesis. It's rolling on either 21s or 22s, and it has a matte paint job. So I'm just
anything matte, you got to be careful with. Obviously.
I just got to be so careful. And 21s, they're like rubber bands around those things. I'm like, I don't think I can take that one off road. And that's one of the few exceptions because obviously those buyers aren't going to be taking that off road, which I could say about a lot of things, but at the end of the day, I'm not here to break vehicles, damage vehicles, send them back to the manufacturer and go, oopsie. That would be professional. So I do have some professional limits, but for the most part, if there's enough sidewall, if it has all-wheel drive, I will take it off-road.
Yeah. But let me from a technology standpoint, right? Like you talk about the 4Runner that you have, where when you use certain features, especially off-road, like the crawl control and stuff like that, it does feel very, very mechanical. Yes. Right. And it does. And I've used it and, and it does feel like the entire truck is shuddering and it feels
it's
like
butch though. You're like,
it's cool, but like it truly sounds like you're breaking shit. Right. It just does. with the new technology like the TRD Pro that you just tested, where it was silent.
Yeah.
Does that technology scare you at all? And by scare you, I'm talking in a sense where, do you think it has legs? Do you think in 15 years, where your 4Runner, which has been around for a billion years, right, is literally, in my opinion, going to be the collector's edition, because those trucks are literally bomb-proof, right?
Yeah, we actually won the American Revolution because they were driving
because of
4Runners.
Yeah. So like that truck is not only an icon, and I'm going to say this: if you could buy one now, buy one, because they are truly some of the best trucks.
Not now. Do not buy one right now, because you are going to pay through the notes. Yes.
Yeah. I priced one out. I was like, damn.
But do you think the technology in the newer trucks will live as long and will have that type of legs as the new trucks that are coming out?
That's hard to say, because
do you think it's as durable? Do you think it's in 10 years you're still going to be able to get those parts, and when software?
Well, yeah, I mean, they build, what do they build? They build like 200,000 4Runners. Like just in the US alone, they sold 150,000 4Runners last year. There's going to be parts for decades on those vehicles. Okay. But I think one of the things is it really comes down to manufacturers' decisions. The technology itself is not the part that's going to break. It's whether the manufacturer nickels and dimes the choice of componentry to one that's less bomb-proof, essentially. Because like in 10, 20 years, we're going to have individual hub wheels on each corner, and they'll all be controlled independently. And we're not going to be talking about this whole using braking. We're going to look at brake vectoring as such a primitive technology in 20 years. And also brake vectoring, you're wearing parts. You're really abusing stuff. Yeah. Now, granted, it's within parameters, so I'm not worried about doing it, but it does wear stuff. Whereas when you have individual hub motors, you're just telling it what you want to do. And then, like what we saw with the Hummer, the new electric Hummer, which I think is absolutely a stupid vehicle, but I see it as a good vehicle as a technology showcase.
It's a test bed. Yeah, that's what it is.
Totally. Great technology showcase. You'd be an idiot to buy one. But
lease,
whatever. People roll around here with H1s. So I'll probably see a couple in the Seattle area from tech billionaires who just want the latest plaything. But, the ability to do crab walk and tank turns, like we also saw with the Rivian, those things are really cool, and it's going to take a while to get there, because even Rivians, like I believe they've delayed tank turns on them because of some software concerns or wear concerns. I don't know why. For whatever reason, the tank turn's not working right yet. But things like that, it's like the abilities, what you can do. And at that point, you don't have, you don't even need to do oil changes. All you're doing is basically swapping out tires.
It's going to change the whole service industry too. Like,
absolutely.
So crazy, man. Like, if you're looking to be a tech now, like I don't know, it's an uncertain future.
I know, right? You have to know how to change tires, because tires are the one thing that'll still that will still be swapping out. Brake pads, still something that's swapping out. But I mean, the rest of it, like the complicate, again, 20, 30 years from now, we're going to think we were just like, why did we not want to move to electric? It's obvious it's going to happen.
Well, it's interesting though, because if people out there, I mean, if y'all are our age, right? And so myself, Rob, and Ryan, we're all 60s, 70s, kids, born in that range. We've seen basically the technology go from carburation, right? And I still, Rob still, and we all still own carbureted cars, to EFI, to
all mine are fuel injected.
Yeah, but like just kind of fuel injected. Like your old Subaru's like.
My 1990 Subaru is kind of,
it's kind of fuel injected.
It has ABS though.
Yeah, that's true. But like we've seen the technology go from carburation to basic fuel injection, I'll say that, to sequential fuel injection, to now hybrid technology, to now full EVs.
Yeah, we've seen the full arc.
We have come really kind of full circle, and it's really, is that you?
That's me. That's where I started. That was my first car. I was 18. That's a Honda Civic, 1978. That's like a collector's item now.
My buddy had one of those.
So I'm going to tell everybody right now. So for those of you listening out there in podcast land, go to the Hemmings YouTube channel, to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast, and just whatever time this is, I don't know, we'll put a little thing up there. You have to go and look at this picture of Ryan. Look at his face now, and then look at 18-year-old bandana wearing, high top wearing, tank top wearing. OP
those are wrestling
wearing,
shoes, I would like you to know.
Yeah, that's That's a photo, pal.
Isn't that a look? That is quite a look. Yeah.
That's pimping.
And I thought that was a good look.
Honda.
Yeah.
Pimping on an original Honda Accord.
That was before I crashed it 5 times and it still ran.
That's a thing. So, but yeah, I think the technology that we see right now, and I think you're right. I think it's by the time that we're in our 70s, in our 80s, we're going to look back and go, okay.
Yeah, that was a lot of time working on something that I didn't need to work on. Like if you have those old carbs and stuff like that. Now, granted, I don't do a lot of mechanical work myself. I mean, to be completely honest, I'm not a mechanic. I will swap suspension. I'll put body panels on the bottom, for bash guards and stuff like that. But I'm not going to monkey with an engine, especially these modern ones. There's just
no, you can't.
You can't, right? And I don't enjoy like the thought of like I've changed heads on an old Miata that I had.
Yeah.
And I did not particularly enjoy that. So I know where my limits are in my time, and I'm like I'd be better go film something, and I'll just have somebody else do this for me.
So do you think these are going to be disposable? I mean, for lack of a better term. So
the cars that we have now, or you mean the future, these hybrid ones?
Well, I think. The cars that we have now, I think will still be made. Like, so 2020, like your 4Runner, you'll be able to keep that on the road for a billion years.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But like, so the, like when the Rivian comes out, right? Do you think that is going to be something that will have a 25-year lifespan?
Ooh, that's tough because I'm not too. They've done a lot of research in the Rivian, and it's clearly focusing at off-road capability, but it's not time tested. And that's one of those things with cars is that, even massive car makers like Ford, Chevy, those guys have had missteps where they've gone through entire committees, test cycles, all this stuff.
Yeah.
They sell them to the public and oopsies, it blows up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing we're going to have to see once the Rivians actually get into the hands of consumers and consumers do all the stupid stuff that consumers do. God bless them. At that point, we will see, I think, it's going to be a few years before we can make that determination at all. And that all has to do with what's going on inside the vehicle. I think that Teslas are basically disposable cars. I think that's been proven based on, and all the Tesla guys are going to be like, you're a Tesla hater. And it's like, no, I just think that, and actually this is an interesting thing. So people, I actually read my YouTube comments. I know. I do.
As you should. Everybody should.
And I respond to ones that I can't. But the one thing that is interesting is that people will say, like, you always hate on Hyundai's all-wheel drive system. You always hate on Tesla. You always hate on this. And you know what? Yes, I'm consistent because it's the exact same all-wheel drive system in every single one of these Hyundais. And it's not that it's bad. It's just that it could be better. And it's not as good as they even advertise in their own ads. And some of them, hate to say it, outright lie. Kia, I will call them out on this, and I have in my videos. They say they have a center locking differential. No such thing in their vehicle. It's a clutch pack. That is a huge difference. You're saying you basically have a Land Cruiser differential, which is a $90,000 car, and you have it in your like $20,000 crossover. No, you do not. And so people hate on me, and they're always like, "Oh, you always hate Hyundais." It's like, no, I hate things that aren't as good as they should be.
Yeah.
And I'm consistent, I think. And so they're like, "Oh, you always like Toyotas." It's like, well, I always like my RAV4s because they're the same exact vehicle. Why wouldn't I loved it 5 years ago because it was what it was, and I like it now because it is what it is. And it's like that has not changed. So I think that's one thing is that people see like Tesla, everybody's being labeled as either a hater or a fanboy. And I think that that's at least consistent because either you buy into Elon Musk's BS or you don't. And if you do, you're a Tesla fanboy. And if you don't, obviously you hate Tesla. It's like, no, just say what things are. It's not autopilot.
That's right.
You're going to kill people.
Ryan. See, so you're in the, if you have your own company and you're doing that, and Ryan obviously has driving sports, you can do that, right? But so here's the thing. If you work for a publication, if you work for a magazine, and that magazine or that those sponsors pay your bills, right? Whether it's an OEM or whatever the case is, and you come out and say, Kia comes out and they're just like, we're going to give you $100,000 to review this video and we're going to sponsor your stuff. And then you come out and you're like, let me tell you why you lied to the consumer about your center locking diff. That doesn't exist, right? They're going to go, Yeah. So about that $100,000 we gave you, you're not going to give that to you. Anymore.
Well, and actually, like YouTube reviewers have that same issue, not from a monetary perspective, although some of them do, but for the most part, most do not have that from a monetary perspective, but from a review sample access to the vehicles.
Sure.
Kia still gives me vehicles. I actually like Kias in general. There's just a few things that I wish they would improve. Likewise, Hyundai. I like I just had the Santa Cruz, which is the competitor to the Maverick. And I think that for a certain buyer, that's an excellent vehicle. It's like to me, the Santa Cruz seems like something my mom would have bought to go to the nursery with. It would have been a fun, cool looking car that gets them, they'll feel confident in the snow. It's great, but it's not an adventure vehicle. That all-wheel drive system isn't as good as others in the class. I have no idea how good the Maverick system is going to be. And I'm kind of taking throwing a ball on this one. But the Bronco Sport really impressed me. And granted, that has the higher end torque. It has a clutch in the back with dual clutches for a more advanced all-wheel drive system. They have a lower end system, and that's the one that's in the Maverick. And I've never used it, so we'll see how well it goes. It may be just as bad as the Hyundai.
Because I always ask you before I lease a car, and my wife likes these XC60s, the Volvo, and you surprised me by saying they actually have a really good all-wheel drive system, and they don't
Ford
market
Warner
it.
Haldex version 5.
They don't really market that.
No,
I don't think
they don't.
I feel like Volvo is one of those companies. Like, if you're like, I'm gonna buy a Volvo, right? They're so underrated as far as
I buy them for the seats, honestly.
Seats are great. Seats are great.
But when you buy that, you just go, well, it's going to be good because Volvo made it.
Yeah.
So this, I had an argument with somebody on Twitter because they were talking about the V90, and the V90 is, I think, one of the prettiest cars.
It is
incredibly gorgeous,
stunning.
And I said it's incredibly good looking, but you don't really want to own one because of the reliability. And he's like, no. Like this one guy I was arguing with, he's like, no, Volvos are great, and they're this and they're that. So no, I pulled the report from Consumer Reports, which is about as accurate as you can get, and it's like the lowest of the low of the low, and that's not all Volvos, just that one. And so you can't just look at a brand, especially these days where you have such a mishmash of parts coming in from all over the place. You can't just look at one brand and say, oh, that brand's good or that brand's bad. That's not true. But you can definitely look and go, that car is a mess. It's a hot, gorgeous mess.
Right. That's true. That's a very valid point.
Yeah, but we did awful things to that. We had a V60, and boy, we did naughty things to that vehicle, and it did a great job.
Did a good job.
Yeah. It got up some of our hardest test courses that we were doing at the time. And the funny thing is that Volvo later, they didn't talk to me directly, but they talked to the people who give us the vehicles. Yeah. And they didn't have any issue with our off-road testing because, of course, it did well. They had an issue with the fact that I dare compare the wagon to a Subaru Outback at all. They that's not okay. No. But the funny thing is, you go to Sonoma, what does everybody drive? They drive Volvo station wagons and Subaru Outbacks.
And people cross shop. They do cross shop.
They do. It's huge. Like just in my comments section, everybody's like, "Oh, I used to own the Volvo and I bought the Subaru, or I owned the Subaru and I bought the Volvo." It's like they ping pong between the two. Basically, that's their whole life. Yeah. It's like I'm a Volvo Subaru person. Depends on what year it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. They definitely cater to the same kind of people. And actually, I have a small history with Volvo. When I was 14, me and a friend borrowed his mother's Volvo 240, and we took it off-roading. And that was my very first off-roading experience.
And that car is still on the road, guaranteed.
Without question.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. That car is still rolling.
You're going to have, I'm telling you, if there's ever, God forbid, a nuclear catastrophe or like a meteor strike.
4Runners and 240s.
Cockroaches, Ford Crown Victorias, 4Runners, and Volvo 240s.
That's it.
Those will be the existing cars that will get us through the zombie apocalypse because that's it. So like if anybody's a prepper out there, go buy one of those 4 vehicles and stuff them in your shed and just keep a little gasoline on the side to make them run.
Well, no, if you get the Volvo with the diesel, then you can just, keep French fry oil sitting around.
But I think that was an Audi motor which grenaded, right? Aren't those just garbage?
I don't remember.
The 240s? No, they're pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for shitting on everything I just said, Rob. Appreciate it.
No, you just
There's always somebody.
These are the cars you want to have forever. Rob's like, no, you don't.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, they see that's the dynamic of 3 car guys. There will always be one who's like, Nah,
no,
you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. So Ryan, let me ask you, what is next for you? We're coming up on an hour right now. So what's next? What is driving sport? You've got the test track, you've got the new Maverick on the way.
Well, right now it's like we have so many press events because of all this stuff I talked about earlier on. I'm having trouble. Like I flew in yesterday. I'm now going to go to the test track when I'm done with this, and then I'm going to fly out again. I have a Subaru. Subaru Forester Wilderness. We're going to be driving that off road next week. No, I'm sorry, that's in 2 weeks. And then I have a Porsche event that I'm doing.
You've made it into the elite Porsche circle.
Yeah. Okay. So Porsche is a little weird. They've invited me to the experience center where I get to drive all their latest cars, and they will discuss with me the ability to get vehicles in the future. When I was talking about how nobody's sent sports cars to the Seattle area, Porsche was the big one. They still to this day barely send anything to Seattle. It's always Bay Area and Vancouver, BC. And we're kind of like, So they want to evaluate because they do send up cars for specific people. They don't just keep a fleet. And so I can kind of see why they want to like engage with me a little bit more on that. And I've already told them specifically I'm interested in mostly the off-road and the crossovers and that kind of stuff. I'm not a 911 guy. I mean, I would love to drive one. Yay. But for my audience, I have to focus on my audience.
Track. I think you should do a 911 on your off-road course.
911 Safari can do it, no problem, I bet.
Yeah, well, if they make one of those,
yeah. So that's kind of the thing, it's expanding, and the test course has a lot of development to do. I mean, we got the roads in so far, but I need to put in buildings. I need to get water in. I mean, there's no utilities. This is raw property. And with the snow coming up, I need some kind of a shelter so my crew doesn't freeze. I mean, it's, there's a lot of work to be done on the property. So that's kind of like the whole next year. Right. And then like the Maverick, I'll probably keep that for 1, maybe 2 years and then flip it. Or just get another car. Basically, we bought the Crosstrek Sport end of last year for testing for the show. My wife really liked it and doesn't want to give it up. So I'm like, okay. I got the 4Runner for the show, but I don't want to give that one up. So I'm keeping it for now. And then, so I'm like, well, I need one car that I'm at least cycling every couple of years. And then, so the Maverick is that car. But I'm expecting that the 4Runner, I'll probably flip it to a hybrid 4Runner in like 2 years. Whatever the new 4Runner comes out, I'll probably flip it to one of those just because I need to keep things fresh. Because I focus on new cars. I don't focus on like 2, 3, 4-year-old cars. In a review, I do eventually will be an old car. So there's that benefit.
Right. So, okay. So where can everybody check out, driving sports? Where can they find you on social? Give us your whole spiel of stuff.
I engage a lot on Instagram. So like Driving Sports TV is the name on Instagram. I also engage directly on Twitter. So those are kind of the best places to find me responding under the brand account. And then, but YouTube, all of our videos go to YouTube. We also do licensed broadcast versions of the show internationally. So those are broadcast. Like we have a big viewership in South Africa on the Ignition channel. Although they haven't been buying late, they're a couple seasons behind. But that's always kind of interesting when you get fan mail from other countries around the world and they're not watching the YouTube version. But YouTube is where it is our 90% focus. So anything new you can find on YouTube. It's just Driving Sports TV. And we have actually 2 channels. We have the main channel, which is just Driving Sports TV. And then we have Driving Sports Live, which is kind of an experimental. If I'm somewhere and I think that it'll stream well, I'll do something. But those are really rough, but they're kind of fun. And we engage with viewers real time on those ones. So make sure to subscribe to both.
Cool. Well, Ryan, thank you for coming on as always. Fun. I mean, like I said, Rob and I, we've worked together for, the 3 of us have worked together for a million years.
We could talk about so many things.
and I think we will. Ryan, you got to come back on and we'll definitely continue conversations on other topics. But yeah, everybody who's out there, go to Driving Sports, because the one thing you're going to find about Ryan is really the reviews are spot on. They're no bullshit. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks.
Yep.
And he's not going to sugarcoat stuff. So, well, it is for better or for worse. And I think that's a rare thing. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you want honest opinions on new cars, new trucks, new SUVs, check it out. I promise everybody out there it'll be worth your time.
And it's like a consistent format that
it is.
that you know what you're going to get. It's useful information, so they're definitely
cool. Thanks. And each episode is like, so make sure you get a cup of coffee and tea, because each episode is typically 20 to 30 minutes long.
Good grief.
It is.
And we do 2 episodes. We try to do 2 episodes a week. We're kind of doing 1.5.
So you do that little thing with chapters up front, right? So you can.
Oh yeah, you have chapters. You can jump straight to the off-road stuff, and we do repeat a few things that are important for those viewers who only want to watch the off-road. Usually, it's okay.
Cool.
Well, dude, Ryan, thanks you again. I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon because we talk all the time. And all right, man, we'll see you very, very soon back on the Hemmings Hot Rod Barbecue podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod Barbecue podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.